100 years ago, at the end of First World War in Latvia, the amount of difference in gauges were 5 different gauges in place. 1524, 1435, 1750, and 600. So designers at that time should have been much, much smarter than we are nowadays, just talking about 2 different widths. But my question would be, the challenges today, are they different in each of the countries in terms of designs, or they are more or less we are on the same level? I don't know who would take the questions. Yes.
Okay, I can talk. They are different because, as I already showed there is large bridges. We have at least 3 large bridges in Latvia. One what Eiropas dzelzceļa are doing over the Daugava, what is our design over the Daugava, and then we have over the Gauja River, it's 2.2 kilometers long even. So this is totally different than in Estonia. In Estonia, the biggest bridge is over the Pärnu River is 200 or 250 meters. Also, we have in Latvia that cut and cover tunnel, quite long. We have no such tunnels in Estonia. So there is quite a different situation in each country.
Okay, thank you. And there was a question of why SYSTRA was presenting design guidelines, and just to clarify, SYSTRA is the company whom we, RB Rail, engaged to prepare design guidelines. So you are the ones who prepared and are responsible and help us. So that was the reason why Elodie also kindly agreed to participate. So now let's go to the questions. Will signaling system design projects will be launched separately for each Baltic country, or will there be one centralized tender? Do you have the answer now?
Yeah, this is a simple one. It will be a centralized tender in order to have a single system for the 3 Baltic states.
Okay, good. Now, how will the local rail authorities, such as Estonian Railways, be involved during the design and construction process? How do you work with all the major stakeholders in terms of design? Maybe, Anvar, you can start, and others could.
Yes, actually, they will be deeply involved. We cannot design and construct without them. So there are, in addition to the Estonian Railways, there are other railways and ports as well.
Jean-Marc, maybe you can elaborate what's the way how we sort of view the process of cooperation among different institutions.
Yeah, in general, we have a process of stakeholder management that we are elaborating, and in each of the country, we have stakeholder managers who is in charge to follow the different stakeholders. So stakeholder in the large meaning, that means all the different authorities which are involved, utility provider like electricity, road, railways, as well as the private person who are also impacted by the project. And according to the topics, this stakeholder manager is following the different questions and problematic and addressing the right persons in RB Rail or implementing bodies.
Okay, thank you. Now, next question. What kind of state authorities will approve detailed design, especially signaling design? Kaido?
In Estonia, it's technical regulatory body.
Yes.
Then in Latvia, it's also the railway regulatory body, and in Lithuania, actually, I don't know exactly Lithuania.
There are the same institutions, both in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia.
So independent institutions from the state side will approve that one.
But additionally, for interoperability reasons, there shall be checking by the notified body. And for the signaling, the European Railway Agency, ERA, will be also involved in the reviewing and approving all the technical specifications and also following the implementation process.
So actually, when we talk about who is involved in design process, it's not only RB Rail, it's not only national implementing bodies, a lot of different technical authorities ensuring safety. And coming back to safety issue, I just wanted to ask you the question. The big challenge of following all the safety requirements and going through the approval process, which is rather lengthy, versus that we expect the project to be on time, delivered as fast as possible to get the gains. Is there anything in modern approach of design process where you can speed up the process and not to create difficulties in terms of safety? How do you balance safety versus speed issue for design purposes?
Mainly the big part of the safety issues are related to the signaling and traffic management. So it's separately dealt. We have ERA who controlling that, Novo controlling, and then ISA is controlling. So it's separately regulated. It's very tough regulation. There is.
Okay, but how do you can you speed up?
Track part structures, it's not so complicated. It's much more easier.
Okay.
But now the key point actually is to have a good planning and anticipation of these issues. But in general, regarding the signaling, we are in greenfield project and we are not anticipating very complex situations. Okay. It's actually more easy to implement RTMS signaling from the blank page for the new highway than for already existing highway with a lot of constraints and specific rules. So we will follow a careful process involving all the different involved authority, national authority, NOBO, independent safety assessor, engineer, and so on, in order to have everything on time from that perspective.
Elodie, do you have any suggestions or seen from experience how you can speed up design process a little bit?
Well, that's a tough question. I would say that the stakeholder management can be a major problem. So I would say that it's better to anticipate at the beginning of the design stage all the meeting with the stakeholder and ensure that the requirements are clear and defined. Because doing the design one time, that can be short, but doing design one time and then again, that's taking always a lot of time, and this is at the end what is the most important issue.
So talking and stakeholder management. Okay,
yes.
now
I can maybe add about the existing detailed technical design of the main lines. To speed up the design, we have made the priority sections. Each section have inside each section we have priority sections, and we have prioritized because of money. We have from SEF 1, SEF 2, SEF 3 money for construction, and we have to finish that before 2022. So that's why we are pushing the designers to start there, where we really have money, like the sections between Central Station and Driksna in Riga, from Kaunas to 65th kilometer in Lithuania, and in Estonia we haven't decided yet which one will be the priority, but that we will decide that soon. And we are pushing inside these priority sections. We may have also the priority ones where we have designers have to finish before that we can start as quickly as possible the construction tenders.
Thank you. Now let's turn next question from Slido regarding the ongoing detailed technical design tenders. Will Rail Baltica share the detailed tender time schedule when announcing the results of pre-qualifications? On the slide, we have exactly the same time schedule, and as I told, the first sections we tried to qualify in 1 or 2 weeks. Then in the beginning of May we will start the second phase. Then somewhere in the August, September we plan to finish the second phase and to sign agreements in September, so that we have still 3 months before everything is frozen and there is half a meter snow to do the surveys. Okay, but then coming back, all the information of our procurements is on RB Rail webpage or in national implementing bodies web pages. You can follow there, sign for newsletters, etc. So you have the possibility to follow the latest news. Now, next one, is RB going to purchase materials, ballast rails, etc., together with track construction services or separately? Do you know the answer to this?
We don't know yet. We are doing the study about that, but generally I think it's wise to buy centrally all the materials. But as I told, we have study what we are starting soon.
Now, this morning, Kasper Sokens mentioned his childhood memories of to-do. Now, the next question is probably similar to that. Did you consider any particular attention to the reduction of the noise or the vibration? If yes, which ones?
Yes. Already in the modern design railway, there is a lot of measures to prevent the noise. But first of all, this is coming from rolling stock, and the 1435 rolling stock is already much more silent than the 1520 rolling stock that all of you knows and can see in the Baltic currently. So this is source reduction measure, and it's also kind of a UIC policy to eliminate all the noise problem of railway until 2050. But additionally, in all urban areas, some noise barrier will be implemented. That will be also part of the design, and specific measure could be also needed on some structure to avoid propagation of vibration in some very specific case.
Okay.
So, yes.
There are specific requirements already in place.
Already.
Good. Now the next one. Will the procurement for design provide and name the it jumped interface manager between different specialities? Now it's question number 2. No, it just disappeared.
We
Yes.
have
Interaction.
interface manager in RB Rail, but we have also each section have the project manager, we have deputy project manager, we will have the deputy project manager. So, and of course there is technical team to help them all.
Yes, this is very important point for the all designer will need to have interface manager taking into account all interfaces of the project, internal, external, and in link they have to specify in detail all interfaces as part of the deliverable documents, and that will be in line with RB Rail interface manager will oversee the supervise the process.
Okay. Now the next question. When and how do you expect to tender the ERTMS for the line?
So for this we have still quite some time because we have to build the civil work first. In general, prerequisite for signaling and RTMS design is operational plan. As it was explained, this will be completed until end of this year. And in parallel, we will prepare a study, kind of a state-of-art high-level study for the ERTMS that will be also done this year. And full design of ERTMS and design and build construction will come only later from 2020 probably.
Okay. Now the next question. Has the stakeholders' comments and suggestions been taken into account during preparation of the design guidelines, or let's put it the other way, on which ones, if you have implemented or used, and which ones you said that no, maybe something is already different in Europe?
Okay, I would say that the stakeholder management was already a big part on the design guideline. We had the first meeting beginning of October with all the stakeholders and RB Rail, and we presented the first what we are going to do in the design guideline, what are the key parameters that we want to implement and why, based on TSI and based on the other European Union best practice. So we have done that in October. End of October, we submitted a version of the design guideline, which was reviewed by everyone, and we received a lot of comments on which we answer in detail, point by point. We had another workshop with the stakeholder in November. We discussed during this workshop, we did a special focus on the key points that were commented, and we had a conf call beginning of December, and since then we are answering to the comments received. So I think the comments are implemented.
Can you tell us how many comments were there? Was it tens, in hundreds, or?
I would say
Hundreds.
maybe 600, 700.
Okay,
So big part came from Latvia.
quite an interaction.
I can just add that everything was what was so general that we can take account into the design guidelines. We put into the design guidelines. If this was too specific or in specific case, then of course this is the specific case, and we didn't put this into the general design guidelines.
Yes. Okay. So there might be specific cases or places
Designers
where
have to decide many things anyway.
some things can to be adjusted. Okay. Now let's have the one final question. How are you ensuring optimal design decisions are achieved that ensure effective balance of cost, risk, and performance for the long term? So basically, how you capture everything in one design guidelines?
This is not really in the design guideline, but during design, I already touched a little bit that point. We are going to make value engineering for different solutions with some main ideas that was presented. And in particular, we are looking for the long term. Long term because we don't need to have a railway system who after some years will need some overhaul, will be costly to operate, costly to maintain, because this will go against all the commercial aspects and high market shares targets that we want to have. So the long-term vision is very important, and obviously we have to justify and to detail all the measures for the capex and all decisions taken. We may have a capex influence, but we are already doing. But we really look to have an efficient railway for the decade and centuries to come.
Okay, many thanks. On this nice note, let me finish this session, Q&A session.